Okay, let's talk about the reality of marriage. And this one's going to be much needed for a lot of people because I think there's two extremes to how people see marriage, and the way you see marriage determines how you show up in potential relationships. So there's one side where it's marriage, according to social media, is this amazing thing that's like it's gonna literally solve all your problems, and it just feels really good to be in. It just feels really, really good to be in marriage. And they what is portrayed as is like it's amazing to be in all the time. And it's just like so worth it, and it's so much better than being single. That's one end of the spectrum. There's the other end of the spectrum where people are like, marriage is so difficult, and it's like literally you're suffering the whole time, and you're gonna die, and just don't do it, and just it's just better to be single, and just like there's a whole lot of fear about it. And just kind of a side note, whatever people share, it's just coming from their own perspective, but it's not necessarily the whole entire truth. And so my intention with this video is to get you to the reality, to help you see things from a more clear, like realistic perspective so that you don't either run away from marriage and you don't make it seem to be like it's the solution to your life. And because if you see it in either way, it just makes you either self-sabotage or it makes you like really like you have to get it now and you feel like you can't be happy without it now. So I'm going to start off with I'm not a marriage expert, right? I'm just going to share I haven't been married long enough to be a marriage expert. But however, the coaches, the teachers that I work with, they are experts and they have been married for over 25, 30 years. And I learn so much with them, right? I truly 100% believe that if you are married, you need a coach to be guiding you the whole time because it can be very hard and heavy sometimes, even with the right person, right? So I'm talking about even if you married the healthy, amazing person, it will still be really hard it's because when you're in a healthy relationship, you actually face your feelings. You don't just dismiss it and numb out and just avoid it. You actually face it. You want a healthy relationship. You want to like talk and communicate and solve your issues and not just brush it under the rug. So getting that out of the way, there's a lot that comes into how to see marriage, how to deal with marriage. And I'm going to share not just my experience, but I also coach a lot of couples as well in their marriages and who have been going through a lot of issues and to show like what actually happens, right? So typically a lot of women in their first year of marriage, they end up being very depressed and just like what the heck because they didn't expect marriage to be like that. They expected it to be like it's going to be amazing forever and it's going to be like this honeymoon phase forever. And so the first year is really a lot of adjusting. It's adjusting to each other's egos, it's adjusting to each other's triggers, it's adjusting to if you're avoidant, you not trying not to run away, and if the other person's anxious, you trying to like deal with that. It's the man trying to understand, oh my gosh, like a woman is completely different than what a man is, and a woman comes with a lot of emotions. And with women understanding men that they don't necessarily understand women that the way that you thought they would. And it's just there's a lot to that goes into it. And so there is this expectation that, well, I know there's, what people say is like, oh, I know there's highs and lows, but at least I'll have someone in the marriage. But sometimes when you get into the marriage, that very person that you thought would help you feel not lonely would make you feel lonely because they don't get you, they don't understand you. And there's this expectation that they should get you all the time. They're going to be this best friend with you this whole time. And but there's going to be moments where a lot of moments where they don't get you, they don't understand you, and you're going to feel even more lonely than before because you thought that this would be solved by now, but it's not true. And when you understand that they don't fix your feelings, they're not responsible for your feelings, and that you are 100% responsible for your feelings, you evolve to the next version of you. And usually people don't really get this until they get married and actually face the reality of like, oh, I thought this would help me, but turns out it didn't. They have to actually face the reality of facing their own emotions, facing the ups and downs, the loneliness, the sadness that comes in, the disappointment that comes in. You have to deal with all of it, and you're communicating it with them. Sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. And this is based off on so much like there's so many books out there that actually talk about the reality of marriage, but it's not talked about. It's not talked about on social media. It's not talked about on other places, but it's just there's so much that goes into it, and it's not just like this happy la la la, like everything's gonna be okay. Okay, so that's the more one side of it of like you will be triggered. You will feel those low moments that you already have before when you're single. That's it's just going to continue. It's not going to be different. And matter of fact, your brain's going to look for other ways of seeing it because if you've been carrying this identity that I'm not loved and I'm not cared for and you get married, your brain's going to look for, oh, look, he doesn't love me enough, he doesn't care for me enough, and then you look for ways to prove it. So that doesn't go away unless you actively work on it mentally. You have to actually actively mentally uh, show yourself that you are loved for and cared for. Okay. So, and then there's like this fear of divorce, right? There's always like, oh my God, is this going to work out? Are we actually compatible? Um, are we actually meant for each other? Or is this like, did we make a mistake? That fear comes up a lot for people too. And if you don't face it, and people think that that's not going to happen, like, oh, unless they get married and that's it, they're married for life. But divorce, no one is safe from divorce. Nobody's safe from divorce. Even the healthiest, most amazing couples that I looked up to, I'm like, damn, like they got married, they got divorced, and it's like that's from God at the end of the day. So how can you, no matter what happens, manage your emotions and be the best version you can be no matter what happens in marriage, single, divorced, separated, whatever the status is, you have to learn how to give yourself the emotional safety and the care that you need so that no matter what comes into your life, you can handle it. And that's people who are more secure. They're like, yeah, I mean, it'll really suck if we got divorced, but we'll deal with it. And it's not this like heavy, like I need them to like be a certain way or act a certain way. Because many women, if they don't know the skill of like managing their own emotions, they tend to be more controlling towards the other person. And if you're very controlling, and I'm not saying just women, both men and women, if you don't know what to do and how to manage your emotions, it comes off as manipulative, as controlling, and it's not like you're intentionally being malicious. It's sometimes it just comes off because you don't know how else to manage your emotions. You start judging them, you start thinking they're the worst, you start thinking this, that, and then it doesn't end very well. So knowing all of that, there's also the nice, amazing parts where when you do go into fights, the other side of it, when you guys talk things through and you make up, it's a beautiful feeling because it builds intimacy. It builds emotional intimacy. And the point of marriage is to grow, right? To grow together, to grow and to understand yourself, understand him. I have grown so much in my marriage, alhamdulillah, and I'd never thought there's so many things that you can't just do, like in terms of development and understanding all your triggers and understanding all the negative beliefs you had about yourself. When you're in marriage, all of that gets brought up and you start actually talking it through, working it through, and it's such a beautiful feeling when you do that. And also, sorry, my voice. There's so much that goes into like how when you're like you're in a good season where you're not really arguing and you both have good opinions of each other, but then when you're in a negative season it's more of like how can you be okay with the situation and still not make it mean that you're gonna end the whole relationship and it's all gonna be in ruins. It's more of like man, going with the flow is the way you want to deal with things as you go, and you learn so much from that too. I'm trying to share what I can, and I know this is not a very clear video, but I'm just kind of putting my thoughts out there of what the reality of marriage is. But it is there has a lot of good and has a lot of bad. And when you're single, there's like there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. It's equally, I truly believe, honestly, the way you see things, being single is not better or worse than being married, and being married is not better or worse than being single. It's all in the way you see it. It's all in the way that you show up and all in the way that you manage your emotions. Because good and bad just depends on how emotionally regulated you are. If every single thing gets you triggered in marriage, that's going to be a disaster. And same thing when you're single. If every time you're triggered about being single, you're not going to enjoy being single. So it just goes back to the way you see things, the way you deal with things, and that's kind of what I help with my clients because it helps take them from being very disempowered and thinking that they need something else to make them feel better to knowing that they can access that feeling right now. They don't need to feel like, once I get married, I'll feel loved and desired and all these things because that even if you were to feel it in marriage and you have access to that, that does fade away with time unless you actually believe it. So that's actually the truth of it. If there's so many things that yes, you could access easily in marriage, like, oh, a man picked me, that means I am desired. But what happens when that man isn't showing as much uh like as he did when the honeymoon phase in the honeymoon phase, right? The effort and all that that kind of fades away naturally, of course, because that's not sustainable. Your brain's immediately going to think you're not desirable enough. I've seen that a lot in women, and I've coached many women on that actually. It's very triggering if you don't believe that. If you don't believe you're desirable, you're going to face that. You're going to face that. And even if you do, you learn in marriage how to come back from it and you bounce back and you navigate and you learn and you ask Allah to help you and you keep going. Now, someone could watch this and think, well, what's the point of marriage? It sounds like a lot of work. And the point of marriage is literally growth. You grow. You grow in so many ways. You go from being independent to interdependent. And now many people go from independent to codependent, which is not healthy, right? But you're going to interdependent. Interdependent is the next level of evolution for you, like which is how do I be myself, be still like, not lose myself and also be in a relationship with someone else. That is the skill that you're learning in marriage, and you're learning how to communicate in ways that you never knew you were able to. And you're holding space for the other person when they need to like tell you something and when things are really hard, how do you argue in a civilized way? And there's so much to learn, right? So it's just this video is more of a rant of what I'm saying, but my point is I advise you if you see yourself like really, really fantasizing about marriage, what are you not thinking about? And if you see yourself really like avoiding and being terrified of marriage, what are you what are you afraid of? And what are you not facing? And what are you potentially like not seeing the beauty of it? Because at the end of the day, I do believe marriage is a really beautiful thing. And you know how people say like, oh, it's, having kids is worth it, but it's a lot of work. It's like, but is it worth it for you? And at the end of the day, like, yeah. And some people say no, some people actually say no, it's not worth it. And so you just have to, yeah, kind of have to, at the end of the day, you just kind of have to go through it to decide what matters to you. But it is a beautiful thing when done right. And um, your only job is to keep working on your how you show up, how you see yourself. Your self-concept is extremely important. Your self-concept drives the way you show up. If you're insecure and you're like, oh, I'm really worthless for being single, when you show up in a marriage and you're talking to a potential, you're gonna try to control them and manipulate them to being a certain way so that you can get married. It's really hard, right? And same thing for the other perspective too. Yeah. Okay. So let me know if you have any thoughts or questions on this. I could make more videos on this, but this is just maybe part one of the reality of marriage. All right. Inshallah, I'll see you in the next video and Assalamu alaikum.